down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are rolling solo today. We are going to be doing a market report here, and then we're going to be breaking down some industry headlines for you all today. But just a quick reminder, I try not to bring this up too often. We do have a weekly newsletter. If you want in on it, I just need you to go to my website, thefreightcoach.com. It'll auto prompt you to register for it. We just talk about freight in there. All right. We put some rates in there, some fuel prices, one of the like an episode breakdown and stuff like that. Again, it's all industry focused. It's once a week, and I don't auto sign up my network for it. So that's why, if you're like, hey man, we email each other all the time, why don't I get it? It's because I don't sell out my contacts at all for any of this stuff. So if you want to go to thefreightcoach.com, it drops every single Wednesday. But let's jump in right away, you guys, for what seemingly everybody shows up for, and that is This Week in Freight, and it is powered by my friends over at DAT. You guys, we do this 3 times a week. We do a dry van, a reefer, and a flatbed load. But it's 100% viewer submitted. So if you want a lane broken down on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com, and I will help you read it. This is something that I have done over the entirety of my career, and it's what I currently do out there. So today's lane is Charlotte, North Carolina to Chicago, Illinois for a dry van. Last week when we were doing, or a couple weeks ago when we were doing Los Angeles to Seattle, and I said I'd move that lane probably more than any lane out there. This is the second lane I've probably moved more than in my entire career of like the most volume. We used to move a ton of freight out of Charlotte into Chicago. And this lane is about as stable as it gets. All right. So if you've never broken down a lane before, or if you're newer to bidding on freight, the first thing I pay attention to, you guys, is miles. All right. 770 loaded miles is what this is. This, again, my general rule of thumb is 500 miles a day of transit. So I would tell my customer this is a 2-day transit load. And with everything that's going on out there in the market right now in regards to nuclear verdicts and lawsuits and everything, you guys really need to dial in your transit time knowledge and what the expectations are to the shippers, because we need to get that aligned. Topic for another day. But 770 miles. So this load, Monday through Wednesday, is going to be very stable from a pricing perspective. Heck, it's probably going to be that way on if it's a Thursday to Monday or a Friday to Monday, because the Chicago market is just always, people are always looking to get back into that. So from a capacity standpoint, probably not going to ever change at all. From a pricing standpoint, the only day I would say that you could probably see a higher rate than normal is going to be that Thursday to Monday if somebody has to hold it. But this lane is as stable as you're going to get, and it's actually decreasing from a rate perspective out there. So if we're looking at this, you guys, it's down where you guys can see it is. And again, I don't tell you guys what to quote on this, but this lane is stable and it's dropping. This lane, though, is like a power lane of power lanes. You're never going to have a capacity shortage on it. And it's stable, right? Like we looked and we saw it spiked up. It was at 1,500 in March, and it peaked at 2,300 in June. So, that was a $500 or $800, public school math, an $800 price increase. But if we're looking May through July, it has stayed within that $200 rate variance thing that I personally apply when I'm going out there and bidding on freight, especially in a non-contract environment. I try and find those stability points, and then I keep a consistent price to my customers, because rates are not as volatile as some people out there like you to believe. I'm not trying to sell you guys anything at all. I'm just trying to show you how I personally bid on freight and read markets over the long term and actually win freight. I do have a brokerage. I've been doing this job for a very long time. It's never as volatile as people want you to believe out there. And plus, furthermore, how can you deliver volatility to your customer on a weekly basis and say how hard it is? And especially when there's other providers that are probably in that customer's network who are not operating that way at all, right? So it's like, again, we found that $200 rate variance. I see it. This lane is stable. It's going to remain stable. I've moved this lane a lot over my career. And it's from a capacity standpoint, you're never going to have a shortage of capacity. Yeah, you might pay a little bit more on a Thursday to a Monday or even a Friday to a Monday. But if you're in a contracted environment, you're going to be good. If you're in that spot market environment on this lane, standpoint is not being done by anybody else. So I would check them out. And I'm going to tie in what they're talking with, like what we talked about yesterday to one of the articles that we're breaking down. But again, you guys, like compliance, I personally think having a high compliance standard and then a high carrier vetting process in place is going to be the gold rush from a broker's perspective, because I just don't see how the days of running and gunning are going to cut it anymore. And then especially from like a leadership perspective, going down and talking to your team, like we're like, again, this is just 100% Chris Jolly's opinion here. The level of settlement or not settlement, excuse me, the level of monetary lawsuits that came out last week is only going to be the tip of the iceberg. I think that the bigger the company, the bigger the target they're going to have on their back. I don't think we're going to be done seeing those things. So again, you got to start looking at how do you protect your organization? How are you constantly vetting your network? If you're utilizing the same providers time and time again to move your freight, which you should, how are you assessing them on a load by load basis or a monthly basis or whatever that looks like to ensure standards are being met? I just don't see how things are going to continue to be able to be done the way that they were. I think that inevitably it's going to, like one of these lawsuits is going to reach the shipper community, is what we were talking about on the show yesterday. And I think once it gets to that point, and once one of these shippers gets actually brought into these lawsuits and is found liable for hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion, just making up numbers, I think that's when your compliance and your vetting standards and all of that stuff is going to be at the forefront of every conversation that you have with any of your current customers and prospects. And you need to have some of this stuff in place. And with that, we're going to lead into our first article, which is from ttnews.com. And it says AI is accelerating, but how can trucking use it effectively? So this isn't like in the article, but like what I was talking about, you guys, you can utilize AI to build all of your systems and processes right now if you haven't done it yet, right? Like I personally use Gemini. I pay for it. I use it for a lot of stuff. All right. Now you got to work with it a lot. All right. You can't just like ask it one thing and take it as gospel. You got to challenge it. You got to work with it, but it will document all your processes and procedures, and it'll take you like 5 seconds, right? So I think we're at a day in time where like you do not have a leg to stand on anymore. If you sit here and say, I don't have the time to document everything, you got more than enough time, and you have more than enough financial incentive to do that. Because one of these lawsuits, and again, I'm not trying to fearmonger, but if one of these lawsuits reaches a normal sized broker out there, it's going to bankrupt a lot of people, unfortunately. But again, there's things that we can do to proactively get ahead of this stuff. But with that, the article talks about how transportation leaders at ACT Expo 2026, including the executives from Warner, Penske Transportation, Platform Science, and Cortara, I'm probably botching that name, discuss the pragmatic real-world deployment of AI across operations. They urged companies not to sit on the sidelines, but to zero in on specific operational pain points rather than chasing market hype. Now, for me personally, one of the biggest operational pain points we had in our system, in our internal operation, for me, was the sales process. All right. And I was kind of running and gunning for a while there. I wasn't really tracking key data metrics on what was working and what wasn't working. And again, a lot of that started with the implementation of our CRM. Shout out to Sales Dash. Highly recommend them out there. But then from a business development and the lead generation software, I utilize a company called Optimus on there. It's got some of the best data that I've ever seen. But I took that and then uploaded that into Gemini, and I've started developing systems and processes. Like that was a big time suck for me because it's like, how do I replicate myself? Like I saw a post this morning about this out there about how some people don't take vacations because they're afraid everything's going to fall apart. And well, you should be utilizing technology to your advantage, utilizing AI, and start, getting those operational bottlenecks. Again, maybe it's a carrier compliance thing, right? Start working with that. Maybe it's a vetting process. Maybe it's tracking who you're actually using on your shipments consistently on a lane by lane basis. Like find that thing that is actually bogging down your time. I know load building is a very large time suck out there for individuals. Yes, it's a revenue producing activity, but at the end of the day, is there any automation tools? Does your TMS offer that, right? Like who's your TMS provider? Do they have an AI load building tool? Because not everybody has EDI customers. Not everybody has automatic load building and stuff like that. So again, what is that biggest time suck inside of your organization? Is there a piece of technology you can implement? Or even better, you guys, and like I had, like when I was talking about the sales stuff or earlier here and how I utilized Gemini for it, I built my own tool inside of Gemini. All right, it wasn't that complex. Like I can barely add. B, I have no IT or tech training at all. But I utilized it enough, and I had a very specific criteria that I wanted it to follow on every single time I had talked to it. And then, it took me a couple of months, but now it's amazing what data and information it spits out every single time I research one of my my leads or one of my current customers about what's going on. So again, find that pain point and then see if there's technology for it. And if it's not, start playing around with AI, start playing around with that stuff to see, is it something you can build on your own and then implement it into your operation? Again, how do we do more with less? It's one of those things that I've talked about on this show also. I'm going to build $100 million freight brokerage with 10 people. I'm doing that because there's enough automation out there today in today's terms to make that possible. There is a 10,000% chance that it is going to exist in the next 24 months with the rapid advancements and adoption and like all of that stuff of technologies out there. So again, they were talking about inside of this panel, they were talking about the applications of it and what Warner has done. And they deployed AI communication tools, automating thousands of phone calls per week for appointment scheduling, optimizing dock utilization and driver time. So again, there's tools out there for your disposal right now that automates the appointment setting process. So say you're working with a large RFP grocery customer who goes into all the major distribution centers out there, Kroger's, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco's, and they have an online scheduling portal or whatever that looks like. There's tools out there now where you can go in and have it automatically schedule all of your appointments for you. And for a company of Warner's size, that probably was a massive, massive time commitment every single week to do that. So again, having something like that working for you in the background. And again, like if you look at it, and if you've ever done any EDI style shipments out there, where some of these tenders come through at like 3 a.m. sometimes, right? And you got like 30 minutes to respond. So it's like you have something that goes in there, accepts the tenders, builds the load for you, and then you're appointing the shipment before you're even awake in the morning. Right. So it's like, look at that and look at from a productivity standpoint. How much more work can you actually get done in a day? And then, on the asset side of things, though, they were talking about it, how, they also utilize AI for predictive maintenance and operational benchmarking inside of their trucks. So again, and I just had the guys at Coltrane on the show last week. And if you don't have a preventative maintenance team working on your fleet, if you're a smaller truck, like Coltrane is that company that you can work with. And then they're building up some tools as well to stay in front of this stuff, right? So again, it's like you got to look at it where not everybody has the purchasing power of the large fleets out there where they can go in and get bare bottom prices on the equipment. I was just watching this guy on YouTube. He buys box trucks at auction. He's got a box truck company. He goes in and buys them at auction, puts a couple $1,000s and upgrades to them afterwards. And then, he pays cash for all of his stuff. So his businesses are, once that obviously initial investment is spent, recouped, he's cash flowing at that point. And then again, if you look at it where it's like, you got to, sometimes when you're starting out, you got to increase the life cycle of your investment. I mean, getting an extra 12 months out of a truck or a trailer, what does that do to your bottom line, right? And there's AI out there that can stay in front of all of those things. And again, I've never owned trucks at this time. It's on our roadmap is to build out a fleet as well. But it's like, I know my old man when he was running his trucking company, and when he was an owner op for the majority of it, is that preventative maintenance is what keeps, it minimizes your exposure to those costly breakdowns that are out there. But again, your data is everything. And most companies have a lot more data than you're even aware of. So it's like, is there something out there that you can start doing to start tracking a lot of the data inside of your company? If you own a trucking company, maybe it's your preventative maintenance, maybe it's your tire wear, something along those lines. What are the most profitable lanes based on in and out times at shippers and receivers? Start tracking a lot of that stuff. Utilize AI to its full potential and uncover more profitability for your business. And then again, I think but ultimately though, there's a lot of ruthless vendors that are out there. All right. And then they're going to try and get you to buy in on everything right away. I think that make sure that your business actually needs it, make sure your business can afford it. But most importantly, ensure that the people that you're talking to have an actual product that you can deploy into your business, because there's a lot of shit on the roadmap that doesn't actually do what you need it to do. And then you get locked into a 12-month contract and you're screwed. All right. You're paying $3,000 a month, hypothetical number, and you don't have a product that actually does what you need it to. And that's a big financial investment to a lot of businesses out there. So just don't buy it because they're trendy. Literally sit down. How can you get the right tool for your business? And how can you implement that to do more with less? Automate the menial tasks that nobody actually wants to do. And again, I'm at that position where I'm bootstrapping my company. RPAs, revenue producing activities. I need as many of those in a day to keep my dream alive. That article was from ttnews.com. And that is AI is accelerating, but how can trucking use it effectively? And again, you guys, all the links to all the articles that we break down on the show are going to be uploaded into the show notes. Check them out, read them, do your own research on it. Second article that we're breaking down today is from freightwaves.com. Louisiana bribery scheme gave 124 people CDLs without training or tests. The three defendants pleaded guilty after falsified test scores and fake training records moved applicants through the Louisiana CDL system. And then it bypassed federally mandated knowledge tests, entry-level driver training, and skills evaluation. I brought this article into it because it's not just a Louisiana problem, right? I'm convinced, and I've talked about this on the show a lot, that once all the dust settles, once all the data is compiled, there's going to be a very clear roadmap of a couple of criminal organizations that are running all of this stuff. And I look at it where here we go. All right. So hold on, because you guys all know that people are overlooking the cash payment thing. The scheme ring leadership charged applicants $5,000 each and bribed Louisiana Office of Motor Vehicle employees as well as third-party skill test examiners to falsify tests and training records between August 20 and 2024, or in February of 2024. The three key co-conspirators, including the ringleader and two certified test examiners, pleaded guilty in court and are facing up to 10 years in prison. Think about that. All right. 124 applicants. This is just what they caught. All right. I'm just doing some simple math in my head here. Say some of these people were given $1,000 a CDL here. All right. And we're only going to go with 124 reported. Are you willing to spend potentially 10 years in prison for $100,000? Think about that. Like that is that. And if it's happening in Louisiana, it's happening everywhere. And that's why I am like so convinced in some of these states. And this isn't just, oh, it's just your prototypical California and Illinois states out there. It's Texas, it's Indiana, it's Florida. It's across the board, you guys. I think people are overlooking what a couple $1,000s in cash will do to somebody's morals, we'll call it, and they can all be bought and paid for. So it's like, I think behind the scenes, this is how a lot of this stuff is going on. Like we've all seen the no name given on the CDLs and stuff out there, but like the fact that this is a thing, and we're talking like it's a $5,000, like, and they used $5,000 to bribe people to commit a felony fraud and then face up to 10 years in prison. If they're willing to do that for $5,000, imagine what somebody would be willing to do for like 10, right? And then especially if you go and sit down with this individual who works at the DMV, who makes maybe $60,000 a year, and you're like, we'll give you $10,000 a month to turn a blind eye and pass every single one of these people. Think about that, right? Like how widespread could that get, right? But again, I don't even think it'd take $10,000 a month to do it. I think it'd be done a lot more. But you know, it's like I look at this where now as a broker, and to kind of tie in what we were talking about yesterday on the show, this is the importance of constantly vetting who you are working with out there. Because imagine you book one of these carriers that are on the road, right? Like imagine you book one of these guys and it's one of these CDLs, like the black eye that is going to give your organization. Like there's no recovering from something like that, right? So that is the importance of compliance. That is the importance of vetting. And you got like, I just look at it where the feds, the FMCSA, DOT have essentially wiped their hands of any and all involvement of this. They're like, yeah, we're the ones who allow them to operate, but it's on you guys. Like it's not our fault. Prototypical. But it's like, we got to look at this now where you got to look at your entire vetting procedures to expose any potential gaps that are out there. Like it's unfortunately only a matter of time now, because who knows how widespread all of this stuff is. All right. This is just 124 of them. There could be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of drivers on the road right now who don't actually have CDLs. And it's on us to identify that, you guys, and protect our business, but also protect our customers' operations to not get that big verdict out there and get one of our customers put in. Because again, you guys, it's a death sentence to most businesses out there. You know, like the data, you guys, like there's an alarmingly high amount of businesses that are 30 days from going out of business every single month. And they are not just, that's not just small businesses. There are medium and large businesses that due to cash flow constraints could literally go bankrupt every 30 days. Like you can do all the research you want on this because it's very well publicized. So again, it's like, this is where we're at with a lot of this stuff, that unless you got a lot of cash to pay out a settlement here, you guys, like most people's companies are probably only insured up to $1 million for lawsuits like this. A $5 million judgment, $10 million judgment against your company, which pales in comparison to the 600 some million that was thrown at CH. Like that bankrupts 99% of businesses out that are on the road or that are operating currently across every single industry. So take this very, very, very seriously on who you are working with and how are you vetting them from a compliance standpoint and from a risk management standpoint as well. That article, freightwaves.com, Louisiana bribery scheme gave 124 people CDLs out there. People are literally spending potentially up to 10 years in prison for a couple $1,000s. Wild times. Third and final, we are breaking down Schneider. This is from TT News. Schneider expects supply reduction momentum through 2026. Schneider National posted a strong Q2 financial results, reporting 10% year-over-year revenue increase to $1.57 billion and a net income of $49.7 million, up from $36 million in Q2 of 2025. President Jim Filter noted that aggressive DOT enforcement crackdowns targeting non-domiciled CDLs, EDL, or ELD tampering, and English language proficiency have accelerated the exit of irrational capacity faster than anticipated. Again, like I've said on this show often, actually enforcing the law and having massive repercussions for breaking the law out there should, in theory, deter people from wanting to commit said crime. Just my opinion on it. And it does go on to say in this article, spot rates are now exceeding contracted rates at levels historically preceding significant contract rate increases. Turndowns or tender rejections remain elevated, and truck utilization has meaningfully improved, signaling early stages of a broader rate recovery. So for those of you out there who are in a contracted environment, it's probably been pretty rough for you, especially if your customers didn't allow a rebid at all. And then you reject these tenders over a long enough amount of time, and then you're kicked out of the network and stuff like that. But, it is, and then it also talks about, as illegal or non-compliant capacity exits, the market is transitioning into a driver-constrained environment, putting upward pressure on recruiting, retention, and capacity costs that I had mentioned in this article there. Again, I think we're kind of a ways away from that. I think that for us, I don't think we're ever going to be in a driver shortage. I think the driver shortage narrative was very much overplayed over the years, and it backfired. And, because again, you can't argue with data. But, I look at that the crackdowns from from immigration enforcement, non-domiciled CDLs, like, again, I will always give credit where credit is due. It's been a very welcome sight to remove all of the unethical and illegal operations off the road, because I've mentioned this on this show so many times. I talked about it yesterday with Tom as well. How many good businesses went bankrupt because this has been allowed to happen, right? I think we are at a 100% time of our repercussions for our inactions over the years. And unfortunately, it put a lot of good business owners out of business. And hopefully this will help encourage the right operators to come in and start running their own company. But, spot rates are up out there. And again, most people will reject contracts to take advantage of the spot rates that are out there. But, again, I think like if you can find that sweet spot where, again, I'm not going to tell anybody what to quote or how to quote on it, but there is a sweet spot where it's like you can operate below your competition, still make a really good margin, and outperform them. All right. It's literally what we do. It's the direct feedback we get from our customers all the time out there. But again, it's like you got to look at that. And this is another one of those compliance things, you guys. You got to be there. There's so much access to information right now that your pricing strategy and all of this stuff, you should not be in a reactive environment. You should be as proactive as humanly possible out there. But, again, that article was from ttnews.com. Schneider expects a supply reduction momentum through 2026. Again, I think we're probably going to see more people go out of business. Just because rates are up doesn't mean profitability is up. Cost to operate increases along with that as well. So again, it's going to be interesting to see, but again, that doesn't change the fundamentals of this industry. You got to be able to execute, you got to be able to communicate, and you got to go out there and find that sweet spot with your customers. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.